a lot of times we're just told something so much growing up that it becomes our reality and we just believe it to be true. Use this with any asset or facet of your life. You get told something so much as a kid and you don't really, you're either not supposed to question adults or it's just the way things were and you're like, okay, and you just kind of keep repeating these things and you keep believing these things and it is what it is. One of those things in sports is 0-2. We've always heard in the NFL, teams 0-2 can't make the playoffs. And I always remember, even as a kid, as I was getting into sports and I was becoming more involved with sports and I was learning to love sports more, I was like, well, that never really made sense to me. We don't freak out in the NBA if a team were to start 0-4 or 1-4, get off to a slow start. There's 82 games. We wouldn't freak out if a baseball team, we've seen them have horrible first halves of seasons and still rebound to become a playoff team. But in the NFL, it was always, if you're 0-2, you might as well throw out the rest of the season. You're just not going to make the playoffs. It was only like a handful of teams that ever made the playoffs, right? They even gave us stats to back up this law or rule. And here's the problem with that stat. Bad teams are always going to find a way to start 0-2. That's the reality. Bad teams will find a way to go 0-2. Doesn't matter what's going on. Good teams should go 0-2, and it just be a couple of tough losses. We've seen Burrow go 0-2. They made the Super Bowl. We've seen other great quarterbacks who have started 1-1, 0-2, and they've still been able to rebound their season. There is now, especially different from when we were growing up, there's 17 games. And again, I know the stats say, well, only one team has actually gone 0-2 and still made the playoffs and still went on a serious run, even with a 17-game season. That was Joe Burrow and the Bengals. But hear me out. Why don't we view 0-2 the same way we do as a team who goes on a 2-game losing streaks week 10 and 11? If a team is 9-0 and then they're 9-2, why wouldn't that same logic be applied there? Because we have examples, because we already know that team is good. We've seen them perform. And to me, that's the same way I feel about a team starting 0-2. And there's all these people in the media, there's all these people on podcasts, there's all these people in TV shows, and they're just screaming and hammering down, trying to get their takes off. 0-2, season's over, give up, pack it in. There's 15 more games, right? There's 15 more games to go. What if a team goes 9-6? Now you got to win a record. And 9-6 isn't a crazy record to go. It's not a insane stretch of a team performing. It's just 9-6. And that would get you a winning record starting 0-2. And I know that everybody truly believes this because what if, again, you could be 0-2 just off some tough luck circumstantial losses? What if the Chiefs were 0-2? What if Isaiah likely gets his toe in and the Ravens convert on a 2-pointer, they win in overtime? What if Joe Burrow doesn't fumble? Now, instead of the Ravens and the Bengals being 0-2, we'd be looking at the Kansas City Chiefs at 0-2. Would anyone think their season is over? Well, that's not fair. That's Patrick Mahomes. And that's Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Two of the Ford, or in a worst case, two of your top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Do we suddenly think because they're 0-2, the Bengals, who were a pick for a lot of people to make a deep playoff run and potentially challenge the Chiefs, do we think now because they're 0-2 they're no longer good? The Ravens, who were the 1 seed last year, won 13 games, had the MVP, played Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. Do we now think they're no longer good because they're 0-2? Do 2 games define your entire career? Do 2 games define your entire season? I don't think so. But you hear everybody, 0-2, can't make the playoffs. Again, what if Mahomes is 0-2? Would we give up on the Chiefs? No. Last year, The Chiefs started 0-1. They lost the season opener to the Lions. If they had lost their second game, would we have looked at that team that much differently? No. The reality is 0-2, well, I know all the statistics support it, and they have all these numbers that throw at. This is the other thing. You can't just be pure analytics. Bad teams go 0-2 all the time. That's why those numbers are so skewed. Because a bad team's not rebounding from 0-2. They're just going to be 0-3, 0-4, 1-5, 2-7, whatever it is. They're just a bad team. We can see that. We can use our eyes. So yes, of course the stats say 0-2 teams don't make the playoffs. But most 0-2 teams don't have Lamar Jackson, a former league MVP, Joe Burrow, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Again, if the Bills were 0-2, would we think that Josh Allen still couldn't win, 10 of his last 15 games and get into the playoffs? We saw them get off to a slow start last season, and they rebounded and got into the postseason, won their division. This narrative of 0-2 for an NFL that just flat out does not exist anymore, as well for all my stat lovers. There's now 17 games. There's now an extra playoff spot. These guys have even more chance to rebound. It's not just, you didn't play great in the first 10 to 14 days of the NFL season, boom, your season's over.